So if you have a paper you want to present during the conference, it would be nice to have you submitted before 30th of October. Also, all those who want to or who still have interest to join the Ghana Geospatial Society are required to go through the necessary procedures for the next induction that we have planned. So if you want more details about it, I would ask that you join the WhatsApp group, which is easy to join, and then you ask all your questions there. Sunday, which is 2 days from today, we are going to have another CPD, and it's going to be mapping of plastic waste, which is going to be presented by Simon Ironside. And we want you to keep in mind, those of you who registered to be part of that CPD, please try and then be there 7 p.m., the same time like we have today. There's also an ongoing market research between the Geospatial Society and some partners. We are trying to come up with a landscape of the geospatial profession in Ghana. If you have not filled the form, it would be nice for you to have the opportunity to answer and then show us what you have, what's happening to you, and then we can give you a good insight about how the industry is looking in general. So today I am still the same person who is presenting, and I'm going to do a couple of things. Now I'm speaking like a moderator, but I would like to introduce to you the CPD. I think I've said CPD, but those of you who are not within the Ghana Geospatial Society might not know what it is. So the CPD stands for the Continued Professional Development, and we are creating a platform that would promote the continued education and development of the geospatial professionals within Ghana. And we do this through talks, through lectures like we are going to listen today, and through trainings. So there are a list of lectures, talks, and trainings that are going to happen till the end of the year. If you have not seen them, I would entreat you that you ask anyone you know who is part of the Ghana Geospatial Society, or check the LinkedIn, our LinkedIn page. You would see us advertised there. You can always register. It's free for everyone to join and then get inspired in the geospatial space. So I would like to, I'm combining this introduction with my lecture because I see that it would make it the time faster for us. So like we said earlier on, this is a lecture, and because it's a lecture, I want to set the expectation. If it was a classroom, I would have gotten the chance to know what each of you expect from this lecture, but I will share with you what you should expect. First of all, you should expect that I'm going to give you a very big picture, a very broad picture about this whole Galamsey thing. This is basically subjective. This is my findings, but they are facts. So I have put down some facts about Galamsey that I will share with you, but I do not represent any institution that is in charge of Galamsey. So I just want to make that clear. Secondly, I would also highlight some of the sustainable solutions that we have tried or we have been good at in the past to solve the Galamsey issue. I'll also give you some insight into methods for addressing Galamsey, especially the geospatial method for addressing Galamsey. And as a going home package, I would give you 18 proposed geospatial indicators that we can use to monitor Galamsey in Ghana. And I think that this would be the highlight of the whole lecture, because these indicators are not yet used. They are only proposed by myself, but we hope that it would solve the issue. And I'll explain each of them for us to see in this lecture. This is a very sensitive topic. A lot of people have their own emotions around Galamsey. So I would start by trying to explain to you who I am, and then it would give you an idea what you should take from me as authoritative statement, and what you should not take from me as an authoritative statement. So my name is Francis Andofo. You can call me Abeku. It's fine if you call me Abeku. My bachelor's is in geography, and I did my MSc in Geoinformation Science. I'm currently doing my PhD in Geoinformatics. And so you see that I'm just winding through the geo field. I had the opportunity to work in the remote sensing and GIS laboratory for 5 years. So I had a chance to teach GIS, to help students do their projects in terms of conceptualizing and finding methods to find answers to their problems. Get the opportunity to work on some physical problems or projects. So quite exciting time to learn more about GIS. In 2016, I founded Where Geospatial. Some of you may know, some of you may not know, but Where Geospatial is actually a non-for-profit organization that we founded in 2016. And the main idea was to help people identify knowledge and structural gaps in society. They come up with a geospatial solution for it. We will help them create a prototype, and then those people can add that to their portfolio. So we basically wanted to provide more exposure and experience to people, especially within the South in Africa, the African region. In 2018, I founded the Geospatial One-on-One Skillshare. From 2018 till last month, September, it used to be a profit-oriented company where we train people one-on-one in GIS and in remote sensing relating geospatial stuff. But as at last month, we decided to take it to open source. So at the moment, from next year, you would see us releasing all our lectures that we've been using over the years for anyone who is interested to learn. So if you are interested, you can watch out for the space as well. I call myself a geospatial evangelist. I try to advocate for people to integrate this geospatial technology into the problems of society. I think it has been mostly limited to research in Ghana. And this Galamsey issue I'm going to talk about, it's not the first issue of this kind I have spoken about. I've written about digital addressing systems. I've written about the tree planting exercises that we do, anything that I see in society that I think it's problematic, but geospatial can actually make it better. I actually write about it. Today, I just have a privilege to talk about it than to write about it. So I have been doing some of these things for a while. And then I also have more like a blog, but it's on LinkedIn where I write about things to inspire you to think beyond the normal classroom GIS that they teach you. So I just try to bring into people's consciousness how to think out of the box of space and time. And if you are on LinkedIn, you can check Joe Inspire, and then you can also get to read several blogs that I have written that I think could inspire you depending on your interest. In Ghana Geospatial Society, I happen to be the chair of the continued professional development. So what I'm doing now is basically the responsibility that I help with other colleagues to be able to create such a platform for anyone who wants to share their findings or share with us what they need for about in research. So this is just a summary about me. So you see, I am mostly about the geospatial technology. In this lecture, I'm going to raise issues about law. I'm going to raise issues about economics. I'm going to raise issues about several things. But these are facts that I gathered, and I do not consider myself a professional in these areas. But things that I would say about geospatial, actually things that I know they will work. I know how they are things that I am sure of more than the law or any other thing. So if you want to weigh what to take away and what not to take away, you can start me with the geo component of it. Galamsey, I thought of talking about Galamsey and addressing it with data because now it's a big problem in Ghana. It has been a big problem in Ghana at some point in time. I think for a period of time, it comes up and go down. It comes up and go down. We've had several issues, and I feel like the issue is repeating itself because we have all been dealing with the issue as if it's the way we feel and not really what the data says. We want to gather the facts. We want to be able to see how can we resolve this issue sustainably with data. And I'm going to start with trying to define Galamsey. My biggest problem is to define Galamsey because personally, I do not think that the definition that they have given to Galamsey actually captures what we describe on the street as Galamsey. So it's a bit difficult for me to describe Galamsey. So I'm going to start with what on the street, what we hear Galamsey to be. So on the street, we think that the Galamsey people are the informal sectors of the mining economy. We also think that the Galamsey people are those who do not care about the environment. They don't adhere to the regulations of the environment. We also think these Galamsey, anyone who is into Galamsey is operating either with or without license. And we think that they are dealing basically with basic tools that we know. They don't have any sophisticated tools or machines like the way the large mineral or large mining companies have. The next biggest question we've been asking ourselves as a country for a long time has been, who is behind Galamsey? I think I would also going to give you what is on the streets than what is than the answer, because we don't have the answer. So on the streets, hands are being pointed to the small scale miners that they are the ones behind Galamsey. Hands are pointed to the politicians to be the ones behind Galamsey. The chiefs have also been accused of being one of those behind Galamsey, and also foreigners, especially the Chinese. We say that the Chinese are the ones behind Galamsey. Now, I want us to see the reality. These are real life events that has been captured. And let's think about it for a moment. I hope you can hear the volume. So this is just a short clip that I played. I just hope that you heard the volume. I'm not sure if, can someone give me a thumbs up if you heard? Okay, so I am told the video is not audible. Is it that it's not loud enough, or if you help me fix this issue now, I think it will be nicer. The video is muted. Okay. Is it working now? Okay, it's working, but it's very low. That's what I get. My from my side, my volume is full. Is there anyone who can hear it clearly? Maybe it's coming from. Does it work now?
Ana yi defend adwuma nso na enye tumi a wo pɛ enti na wo ba be gyina no so aba be gu small scale n'anim ase dɛbi yɛ mpene eti message a ɛkɔ ne sɛ obi a onim sɛ omu wɔ hɔ no wɔn ma ne nto.
All right, sorry about that. I think some of these technical issues. So if you didn't hear that, it's just a less than a minute video. So I want to play to you some interview by illegal miners, one of those that has been pointed as being behind Galamsey, and then we would get
to small scale miner no yen sha ban bi ase e autonomous it yen tena ho e ma mayoko bi e power o pe no onko transport nkrofo mi gunsuom ewu ye adwuma na anim ase debi yem tena sa ade no it ye catch omo a ye chichi omo no obi na o katwi ba ko bi o ka broken ni di nkomo say omu di bi go ha no omu di bi ko ofin omu di bi ko odemu by a true message na mo say baby omu obi a na e beti esi omo because ye na ye ncha ban bi ase ye association ana ye defend adwuma nso na enye tumi a wo pɛ enti na wo ba be gyina no so aba be gu small scale n'anim ase debi yam.
Okay, so this is
what miner no ye ncha ban bi ase e autonomous.
This is what the small scale miners are saying. We've also seen several messages circulating around from chiefs. Well, some of them, especially the chief of Bono, says that if you don't stop within a month, we are going to take the lands back from you. We've also seen the president issuing statements, deploy the police and the military to the field and let them crack down these Galamsey owners. Now, what I see here is happening is that everybody says they are innocent. On the streets, they say that it's the politician, it's the illegal miners, it's the small scale miners, it's the chiefs. The chief says it's not them. The politician says it's not them. The small scale miners also are saying it's not them. It's only the Chinese who have not had a chance to, or we have not had the opportunity to hear their side of the story. And this is something that I want us to keep in mind, how we're handling it. By law, what I gathered is that there is a license or there's a lease you have to take to do mining in Ghana. There's a lease for 30 years, and then there's what we call the restricted mining lease that is issued for mining things like bauxite, clay, gravels, and sandstone. But there's also a lease for small-scale mining license, which is issued for a period of 5 years, and it may be renewed based on what they would come up with after assessing your first 5 years. So we know that small-scale mining actually is lawful, and they are given license to operate. So the law does not, we see clearly that the law does not really says that small-scale miners are illegal, but it has something that it says about it. It says that we will give you the right to mine, but before you close your mine, when you are done with your mine, you have to present to the chief inspector of mines a potential plan or a design that shows that you are going to take care of all potential pollution or component of the mining projects that you want to restructure so that the land would come back to the way it was. But this plan should be a stable plan in a long term. Now, the small scale holder miner is also supposed to sign a bond after this, what they call the lease, the reclamation procedure has been presented to the chief inspector. He's supposed to sign a bond, which is a reclamation bond that is based on whether his work has been approved or not. So they actually are tied to the law to reclaim back the land to the way it was before they started mining. Now, I want to show you also another evidence on the ground on what these small-scale miners are saying. And we will look at how they they operate and what they think about what we are saying.
Let's move on to some other stories this afternoon. And 12,000 hectares of cocoa land have been traded over to the other side. Cocoa farms are bought by miners for between 10,000 and 25,000 cedis. Those who will not sell, like Boache Mensah, sometimes find themselves cut out from their farms by the miners. They are frustrating us to force us to sell our farms, but we won't, because it's a legacy for us and our children's children. Some farmers are incensed with illegal mining activities here. Yes, China for Galamsey for. We are appealing to government. The Chinese are destroying cocoa farms. Every mine area here used to be a cocoa farm that could have served our country well. But some of the miners claim they are operating legitimately, even in the middle of the river. Thomas Arthur claims he works for a licensed mining company. Small-scale mineral company. This is a small-scale mining site awarded to Nayak by the Minerals Commission, and we are working with them. It extends to Kukubiso and Gradada. For the distraction to the river, we came to meet it. Close to the main encampment.
Okay, so we've heard from farmers who are actually involved in this Galamsey issue, and then they are talking about how they get what happens on the ground. I also want us to hear a popular one that I think would be familiar to many of you, but this video went viral and his story is interesting.
Spare land was littered with cocoa, but today it has been ravaged by the hunt for gold by illegal miners. Several cocoa farms in the Kunsu traditional area have suffered the same. Just a year ago, this bare land was littered with cocoa, but today it has been ravaged by the hunt for gold by illegal miners. Several cocoa farms in the Kunsu traditional area have suffered the same fate. Akwesi Fodio has been growing cocoa for the past 20 years. Proceeds from the cash crop has been his main source of income until now. The father of 6 has leased part of his farmland to Galamsey operators.
You see this piece of land, a few over about 300 million from it. Just 2 months. I built my own rooms at Makasi, but I worked 20 years without by even a single crop. Now I have my own premises. So I run myself on the gold more than cocoa.
He appears unperturbed, cutting down his cocoa trees.
Government can never stop Galamsey in this Ghana at all. I have to go. I have plenty money in my pocket. So I got my cocoa. Look, I now cutting it off. You see, it is my own bonafide property. Nobody can stop me. Stop cutting my own cocoa tree. Are you great? Have you planted for me? Planting for you, but food and job are not involved.
The 62-year-old.
Sorry about that, but Akwesi just shared his opinion, and I want us to hear one from the Galamsey operator themselves.
Every cocoa farm we work on is being sold by the owner. We don't use force to take anyone's farmland. We just do everything possible to convince the owner to sell the farmland by giving him more money if we realize there is gold there. We sometimes go the extra mile to get the land by diverting a water body to destroy the farm.
There's a 1 acre, 10,000. Let's talk about 1 acre, 50,000. Now, brown brother, now to be still our year. You do go for your boss, so let's swim before Coconas. Never go you. Now, the betray over the Choka, a bear can walk around. What do you mean at your football? The bears over this Carway. What the name?
According to the International Cocoa Organization's April Cocoa Month.
So this is, I'm going to summarize what we have learned from all these stories. But the first lesson I would like to draw is the attention that government do not own the lands that are used for Galamsey. Secondly, the individual landowners who actually own the land, at least they feel that they have control over what they should use their land for. And you heard Akwesi, this is his bona fide property. So he feels that he can use it for what he cares. And it also seems that Galamsey, it's really not about doing the right thing, especially for the people who are involved in the landowners. It's about putting food on the table. It's about survival. Akwesi, for instance, has 6 kids and he needed to feed them. And if you see the joy in his face for the fact that he has been able to raise that amount of money in a short while, it's really something that we need to think about when we just put ahead and say, stop Galamsey. Second thing is that the people don't feel belonging. Akwesi made a statement like planting for food and job, am I involved? And this is an indication of the fact that they feel like their life and the survival of their families is left in their own hands, and they will do whatever they see fit to get food on their table. Another fact that is clear is that cocoa cannot compete with gold. And so no matter what we do, when people are left between the choice of choosing between cocoa and gold, gold will give you more money than cocoa. And if people's reason for getting involved is to survive, then most people are likely to take the gold than the cocoa. The Galamsey operators are also working directly on the ground. They are not making too much noise, and so they deal directly with the farmers. The Galamsey operators are also doing their research. They know how much a bag of cocoa costs, and they know how to negotiate so that the farmer would find the negotiation attractive and take the offer. The landowners are being oppressed. We see that the Galamsey operator, one of them said that they can even go to the top and then go and farm, put the mercury water on the cocoa. The cocoa will not be profiting the person. So eventually push you to give up your land. And then those who are giving up their money, or those who are giving up their lands for doing the Galamsey, seems to be doing better than those who are not. If you look at Boachi, who said that he has worked for 40 years and he cannot boast of 4,000 cedis. Akwesi says that he has given his land for cocoa for just 2 months and he has received 300 million Ghana cedis, which he is used to build 2 bedrooms out. So people who are involved are actually not really doing bad if you look at it from the outside. And then the negotiations are also sometimes happening outside the chiefs. If you look at the story, it looks like sometimes the chiefs are not even aware because they deal directly with the owners of the land. And I think the last thing we need to also take from these stories is the fact that Galamsey is too open for interpretation. And we would see that very soon. So far, there has been a lot of attempts to deal with this issue. Social groups, working groups, and other people have written letters to the president or to the government to ask for certain actions to be done. Some even threaten to go on strike if their actions are not met. We've also seen organized corporations, some people like Forestry Commission, which I would consider to be, to some extent, stakeholders of this whole issue, also are doing active campaign trying to tell people to stop Galamsey now. And we've seen other organizations or other groups who also look out for who is actually making this problem so difficult for us. Some people have even gone to the extent that they think that because of the Galamsey, the president does not fit to stay in power, so he has to resign. Now, this tells us the heat that is going on down there, but let's look at these facts that I gathered. 40% of the mineral exports in Ghana, according to the UN, in 2020, is actually coming from small-scale mining. 10% of the total export of Ghana actually comes from small-scale mining. A typical example is in 2020 alone, 7.8 billion of the GDP contribution actually came from the gold contribution. And just last month, September 19th, the president of the National House of Chiefs made a statement, which I would like to emphasize. He emphasized that mining is a significant contributor to Ghana's economy. And he also argued that a total ban would not serve the country's best interest. The Minister of Lands has also issued a statement when the trade unions and civil society threatened that they will go on strike if the president doesn't ban mining in total. And he stressed the fact that he calls that declaration as draconian and far-reaching. But he also stressed that in as much as Galamsey is very important, its extreme measures could have unintended consequences on the economy, livelihood, and then the governance. So now we see two things. On the local level, the farmers who are involved in Galamsey, it's actually not just because they are intentionally destroying the land, but they want to survive. On the governmental level, the government is slowing down, everyone is slowing down in taking drastic action because it's also the survival of the economy. The two major exports Ghana knows, or Ghana is known for, is cocoa and gold. And Galamsey seems to fit into the middle of it. If you want to promote one, you would sacrifice one. And if you want, that's the kind of situation we find ourselves. So this is actually a big problem. We need to find a way to fix it. But currently, what I feel is wrong with the approaches we are having is, first of all, it's momentary. Writing letters, doing campaigns, saying that we should stop Galamsey now. These are all actions that we are doing because of what we see happening now. And we cannot continue to do this all the time. Secondly, it is overgeneralized. There's too many hands pointed at who is the one behind it, who is faulty and stuff, that we don't even know where to start from to fix this whole Galamsey thing. Everybody says they are innocent. And the proof of innocence is not answering the question, who is behind Galamsey? We are also trying to find answers by finding faults. We're pointing fingers at each other and who is the cause of something. But also, in all, everything that I think we are doing seems unsustainable. How many times would you send military men and policemen to the field to go and check on Galamsey people? How many times will you keep on saying that people should stop Galamsey now? And all the other approaches that we have given. Now, we've had several meetings trying to solve Galamsey, but we have been unsuccessful. In 2017 January till 2018 December, Galamsey was banned, or illegal small-scale mining in total was banned. In between that time, excavators that were used for mining were put on fire. Hundreds of them were put on fire. Chiefs had even joined the queue by instructing people to put them on fire. And we thought Galamsey would be fixed. But to this extreme problem, we have still not been successful in solving this problem. Now, the question is, how do we really solve the issue? One of the things I want us to understand is Galamsey is a multidisciplinary problem. No one person can fix it. And I'm not here to come to tell you that geospatial technology will fix everything in Galamsey, but I'm going to show you where we play a role, what we bring to the table if you bring geospatial technology into the Galamsey solution approach. The next thing is that personally, I don't think we need solution to Galamsey. What we actually need is answers to our questions. I think we have more questions than we have answers to. And the extent of our solution is actually directly proportional to the depth of our understanding of the problem. And we don't have enough understanding of what is going on. And so all the things that we are suggesting are just one-time solution that we are doing. If we all had answers to the questions we are asking, together we can all find solutions to Galamsey. But now we don't have, and we are still finding solution to the problem. Now, I consider Galamsey to be, for me officially, I would say Galamsey is part of what we call the wicked problem of society. For wicked problem of society, it's a kind of problem where you try to solve one thing and then another thing pops up. So you try to draw the yellow strand and you see that the blue and the red will follow. You are not easily to separate them that much. And there are some characteristics of wicked problems. One of them is that there's no clear definition of what the problem is. There's too many definitions around it. The other one is that there's no stopping rule. It's not something that will provide one solution and we stop because we fix it, it's done. The solutions that we provide are not, we don't look at it whether we are doing the right thing or the wrong thing, but we are looking at it whether we are doing something that is better or worse. And then for solving wicked problems, we also don't provide immediate solution because there is no ultimate test or the ultimate solution to the problem. Anytime we try to provide a one-shot solution to problems like wicked problems like Galamsey, they come with consequences. We have seen this in our history. When we banned Galamsey for that's almost 2 years period, the economy was able to tell us what we need to know. We don't have any final end solution. We keep on changing our solution. So we keep on monitoring, we keep on changing. The problem would change. It would move in different angles and we keep on have to also move with the problem. They always come with unique problem. And also everything that we see, every problem we see is just a symptom of a bigger problem. At the moment in Ghana, we are all talking about Galamsey and so angry because our water bodies are destroyed. This tells me that if the water body should be clear tomorrow, we will stop talking about Galamsey and no one will hang anything on the walls like stop Galamsey, no Galamsey. But if we say Galamsey is illegal, then they would always be illegal. So we need to fix the problem. So we are only solving the symptoms of the problem, but the underlying factors are not really captured. Now I want to share you, this is a success story of how we have fixed Galamsey in the past. And I'm going to base on this story to show you how the geospatial technology can be used to fix the Galamsey in a sustainable manner. So let's listen to Akwesi's final. This is Akwesi again.
Government can never stop Galamsey in this Ghana at all. Nobody can stop me. To stop cutting my own cocoa tree. You planted for me. Cocoa board came and see what the farm is. So they take good care of it to help with the farmers for next year. They take me to, they will help me on the beginning of the year to cut all the cocoa trees out and started to plant new ones and plantain sockets for us. It brings me a good result because they are follow you to see what I've done and what it is worrying me.
Now, will you still sell your farm?
No. I will never do that again because I need help. Now I have what I'm going to do again. I will never do that Galamsey work again. I will do that cocoa work to help the nation. They take me as a what does you call experiment. So after me, they will go to all the farms and check the farmers too. Not me alone, but all the farmers that cocoa has died. They will take care of it.
So how did we get here? Now Akwesi is the one who gives out the land for the mining. Akwesi says he will never do it again. What that means is that Galamsey has stopped on his land forever. Now, first of all, Akwesi's land was identified to be involved in Galamsey. Secondly, an evidence was captured of the incident. And after the evidence was captured, Akwesi was approached. Akwesi was listened to, at least the media went to listen to him. In the story of Akwesi, the first video that we saw, everything was around cocoa. And I think that I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but I feel that Cocoa Board felt responsible for fixing the issue. So Cocoa Board took the initiative to go and see Akwesi. They went to him, and it's important for us to note that they gave him the real recognition that he is the owner of the land, and they offered to support him. They didn't go to start to accuse him that he's breaking the law. They didn't go to let him know that the land belongs to him, but the minerals in the land doesn't. They didn't go that approach at all. They went, if you listen to Akwesi, they came to him to listen to him, and based on his problem, they offered him a support. So Akwesi has started working, they started working with Akwesi on a personal level. This is just one story of one of the people or one of the key stakeholders of Galamsey. And he has a unique problem. it is being solved on a unique level, and Akwesi is benefiting from the discussion he had with COCOBOD. They also gave him a bigger picture. They showed him what they will want to do in the next year and some years to come, and how they want to extend to other farmers. So Akwesi was able to get a bigger picture. Now, after receiving this, Akwesi is now empowered. He feels belonging. He feels like he's working with COCOBOD. And I feel like if now people who the Galamseys go and start to mine and pour mercury water on his land, Akwesi knows who to go to. He knows who to report to. He knows who to share his problems with, so that they can together fight against these people that are causing the harm in the farm. Akwesi now has become patriotic, and he says that he will never do this again. But he mentioned that not because cocoa gives him more money than gold, but because he wants to do this to help the nation. Now he has become patriotic, and he looked forward for his friends to receive similar help that he has received. Today, if Akwesi is doing Galamsey again, it's because COCOBOD did not keep to their promise to Akwesi. But this approach, I think, it was very effective, and it's very sustainable to solve the Galamsey problem. What does Geospatial has to do with all of this? I've tried to give you a very big picture, probably quite a long one, but I want to emphasize the fact that the first thing was that a land was identified. The second thing was that evidence was captured. And when evidence are captured, it's a bit different from when you just make a statement. There has been so many cases in Ghana where issues happen, and then we see a disclaimer or a memo saying that the story is going around saying so and so is actually not true and it is fake. We dispute such stories. COCOBOD could not do that, even if they wanted to do with Akwesi's story, because the evidence against them required that they go the extent, an extra extent, to ensure that they are able to claim or reclaim their name. Now, going deeper into the geospatial part, if you are not a technical geospatial person, it's okay, but I will try to explain them in a common language for all of us. Now, Galamsey starts, first of all, when there's a vegetation on the land, so far what we have seen. And then they start by taking away all the vegetation, and then they turn up the topsoil. Now, when they start the Galamsey activity itself, or when they finish, they leave behind these patches of waterlogs. And these patches of waterlogs are actually what we have seen all over the news being used as an evidence that Galamsey is going on in the community or not. Satellites are actually, they are devices just going around our Earth. There are thousands of them. They go around our Earth on a sequential basis. That is, every particular time or every particular interval, they come and capture. They are monitoring our Earth each and every day. They provide us with images like this, which we can see from this image. You can identify vegetation. You can also see soil. And in the geospatial field, we can quantify what we see in this image. Since 1972 till now, satellite has been operating. All the satellites I'm going to talk about in this lecture are actually free satellites. So it's not even satellite for sale. Now, since 1972 till now, we have this. I think someone is writing on the screen. So if you are not aware, kindly check. Gabriel. Now, when I say we can quantify it, we have several methods to quantify it. One of them, and the most common, is the normalized vegetation index, NDVI. What NDVI we just do is that we try to measure the vegetation and contain them within -1 and 1. What that means is, if we look at a space like this, which has relatively dry vegetation and showing most of the soil, we get a value that shows like 0.15. When here, the next one, which has a little bit more vegetation than the previous one, it's showing a value of 0.23. The next one, which has more vegetation than the previous two, is showing 3.8. And then the last one, which has more vegetation than the rest, is also showing 0.5. What this actually is telling us is that we can actually quantify and tell when there's a vegetation and when there's not a vegetation, just by looking at the quantification value that we receive from measuring the vegetation. Now, if we take the data from time, when we say time series, if we take the data in time, we would be able to tell the trend that happens. So this is just a schematic of how we decompose time series data, but we would be able to see things that are seasonal. In this image, I hope you see my mouse. Okay, cool. In this image, we see that this is a pattern that seems very regular and it's so predictable. This seems that this is a seasonal thing. It could just be a difference between dry and wet seasons. However, we see this abnormalities here where all of a sudden we see a spike, or all of a sudden we see a drop in the pattern, which is telling us that something unusual has happened. And then we can separate the data into these components, and then we'll be able to tell what's happening. So I'm going to give you an example. So for Galamsey, coming back to the Galamsey issue, we would be able to identify when a damage to a vegetation occurred, because the Galamsey starts with deforestation, from what I have shown you now. So these dots that you see are dates and time on the scale that we actually receive, or we capture, satellite image was captured. There are times where the satellite images comes and they are not clear enough, so we are not able to tell, take any meaningful information from it. So there will be a breakpoint where we don't have any information here. And then we can be able to tell the trend that goes on over time. Now there's something I call temporal evolution curve. Temporal evolution curve is basically a behavior of a phenomenon. So imagine that we say that we have seen a vegetation drop, and so we have detected Galamsey. It would be a fallacy to say that you have seen Galamsey because you have seen vegetation drop from maybe 1 to maybe 0. But vegetation can drop for so many reasons. And if you take the images, the satellite images, for instance, if we arrange them in this manner, where each of them is representing a particular time frame, each of the pixel, the value we receive, can give us a behavior like this. That behaves like a signature, or that behaves like a QR code that uniquely identify a particular phenomenon or a particular activity. And so if you decided to we decided to build your house, so you just cleared all the vegetation there. What we're going to see is that last week when we came, there was vegetation. All of a sudden, boom, there's no vegetation. So in our satellite time series data, we will see a drop. But if it is for building, we never want to see a rise. We never want to see an increase in the vegetation again. And so this signature that it goes down here would have to stay flat throughout, because building doesn't grow on top of it, or we don't grow the vegetation back from the same place that we used to build the house. So we have this unique activity. So this is a typical example. You can take these coordinates. They are in the same place at Akwesi's area. I tried to take an area from the Enyinamso area. So within the Enyinamso area, there was a pixel that I found. So this pixel is just showing 0.8. Like I said, NDVI gives us up to 1 and -1. 0.8 means the vegetation was really high. And then all of a sudden, somewhere 2021, we see this drastic drop. This tells us that vegetation has certainly been taken away. And this sudden drop of vegetation could be Galamsey, but we don't know yet. It could be that a farmer is clearing his land for preparing for harvest, or preparing to grow his plants. It could be that we decided to build a house, or it could be that sun winners have decided to have located a new area and they are going to win their sun. Now, for us to be able to tell which of them, what is what, we'll have to identify each of the activities and try to identify what their temporal evolution curve would be. And then we group them based on the curve behavior. This is an assignment I want to give if anyone is interested, but you can take any of this phenomenon and think about it. If vegetation should drop because of deforestation, for a period of 10 years, how do you expect the temporal evolution curve to look like? You can just sketch it. If it's out because of fire or it's because of soil erosion, how would it show? Now I'm going to give us 7 tracks that we can use. If you are using NDVI vegetation as a proxy to measure to detect possible Galamsey, then the first thing we need to look at is to gather all vegetation or all places where the vegetation has not been damaged before the time we collected the data. And the places and the vegetation NDVI is still high for those areas. We also have to get all pixels, we group all pixels that has vegetation being damaged before we started the monitoring, and the vegetation has not been reclaimed. So it is still down since it was destroyed. We also need to find places, or we gather all vegetation pixels that has vegetation being damaged, but they had been reclaimed before we got the data. So we can see the fall and we can see the rise as well. And we also gather all pixels, group pixels that has not been reclaimed, and vegetation is currently at the lowest point. And then we gather pixels that are reclaimed and the surface is finally covered with vegetation, as if the way it existed before we started, or before activity started on it. Then we have the surface vegetation that undergoes multiple damage and restoration. So it keeps on going, getting sudden drops, then all of a sudden it will rise and go back to the way it was, and then it will come again. We will see those ones. And then we'll also see events that there will be events that we cannot see, especially recent events. If it's a Galamsey event, it's a very small area. The satellite image cannot capture. There will be a lot of trees covering the activity until it grows to some point. So this is an example of reclamation. This is still within the Enyinamso area. So the area is still, it's 0.2, which is very low in NDVI. And then all of a sudden in 2020, we see this rise. So this is not a natural process of reclamation, because if it's a natural process, we expect the curve to grow in a sequential pattern. This is a sudden activity here, which means that it is an intentional activity taken to reclaim back the land. Now, this is also an example of places where the vegetation is around 1, and then we see all of a sudden vegetation started dropping, but then it started rising very fast, which tells us that it could not be Galamsey. And this could be bushfire, for instance. So we should also be aware of false alarm when we are trying to detect Galamsey from this side. Now, I feel like NDVI can only tell us the beginning of Galamsey. But when Galamsey is in process, we are not able, when the vegetation is destroyed, we are not able to tell anything with regard to we are not able to tell anything with regard to the vegetation anymore. But this is the second thing that we see, or when the vegetation is in process. This is generally, they call it subsidence waterlogging. And this is basically something that represents water. In the satellite image, we can also measure and quantify water. There are so many methods. I just choose NNDWI, but you can choose, if you are already in the field and you know other methods, you can choose any method you want. But if we use the modified normalized difference water index, we will see pixels that actually have water, that shows water, and we'll be able to identify some of these patches. However, identifying these patches, it doesn't necessarily mean we have seen a Galamsey. This is because we know in Ghana, there are so many places where after heavy rainfall, you will see similar patterns. So we want to look at what we call the persistent waterlog area. So we want to detect areas where it is always showing that, and we do that by using the water frequency index. So if you're using water frequency index, what you are saying is that you see an area which is no water, and then you see the area. Now, when it rises, it means that there's water showing up. And then after some time, it goes down. If it is an area that is showing that because of a heavy downpour, because of maybe a pipe that is burst, we don't expect that to go beyond a month. So we'll be able to use the time frame to single them out and be able to tell which ones are persistent. Now, with the persistent waterlogging, it also tells us that we can tell when actually water started accumulating in that area. And so we can give you when the water started and when so this is an act of reclamation because the water is gone, it's returned back to dry land, which means that someone has filled an area, and so we cannot see the water anymore. The uncertainties about this is that the water could be any natural water. It could be a pond by engineers. It could be a farmer's pond, or it could even be a fish pond. Now, catfish is a common thing in Ghana. So someone has done an open catfish. So we could see all of these things, and we would assume that we have seen Galamsey. It is important for us to separate or to estimate for the false positive, what we call the false positive. But basically, I will call it false alarm. I'll call it false alarm. And this is an example. So I saw this reported as a Galamsey image. And then I want us to look at this and look at this image. What difference do you see between these two images? Here, I want to stress that here you see that there are two settlements, what I call settlements here. And this image actually looks like an image that has a defined dimension. So it has a defined dimension. You see someone has intentionally carved a shape. For Galamsey areas, we do not have any regular or defined pattern shapes. We expect to have irregular, because if they are using excavators, or if they are even digging with a shovel or a hoe, they don't create this. They don't have the time. It's the goal they are looking for, not the shape. So we would be able to use the shape to actually determine or to take out all false positive or possible false positive that we will know. If we use the shape, we would be able to do this. So this is one of there are several methods. Choose the method that you feel it's okay with you or you're familiar with. But you can do. I just want to draw your attention that you need to single out the false positive. Now, I want to draw back to this again. The law says that if you have a land, if you take a license, you can mine. But when you mine, reclaim back the land. That is very well established. But in Ghana, there are two types of mining. There is open cast mining, and then there is underground mining. The fact, what I want us to see is that open cast mining is a legal and approved method of, in many cases, it's legal and approved method of mining. And the presence of subsistence waterlogging that I have talked about by itself doesn't necessarily indicate that there is illegal mining, like what the news have been circulating. However, the subsistence mining is expected, it's an outcome, it's an automatic outcome of open cast mining due to the way the open cast mining is done. Now, subsistence can occur even during the legal mining operation. So even if people have license and they are doing their normal mining, you will see this waterlog patches, because they are actually a result of a method that they use and not necessarily an indicator or indication of the Galamsey. So it is very crucial for us to differentiate between legal mining and illegal mining based on whether the mining area is still within a permitted license period. And the conclusion of the matter is not about whether you are using open cast mining or you are using underground mining. The conclusion of the matter is that whoever destroys it reclaims it. So that is basically what we are looking for to Galamsey. So now, what is Galamsey? Galamsey would occur under several conditions. One of them is that the subsidence waterlog that we have seen should be within a mining concession boundary, or the subsidence waterlog we have seen should be in a rig zone or areas that has not yet been assigned for mining. So we also take that the license period, that is the time that we are monitoring a particular subsidence waterlog, should be at the time it should be greater than the license period, which means that the license period should end as at the time we identify that. If we see a waterlog area and it is within a mining concession area, and that mining concession area, we have shown you the NDVI. The NDVI can tell you the time where the place experienced that drop. And then we can tell from that time, 5 years over, it means that the land should be reclaimed by that time. And so we'll be able to tell if the 5 years has ended and the place is still showing waterlog area, it's a potential Galamsey. Now, the subsidence waterlogging should also, this is basically like a control. So we are saying that there is a lag time, there's a natural time where the land would regain back or will go back to the way it was. This natural time is going to differ from place to place, depending on the soil characteristics, whether it's a clay soil, loamy soil, or whatever soil type it is. So we need to try to estimate the lag time, and then we'll be able to know naturally how long does it take for the land to reclaim back to itself. So let's take T monitor to be the time that we are monitoring. and then the T license to be the license expiration time for that particular area. And then we take the lag time will be the natural time it takes to recover. Now, Galamsey is only Galamsey if we see that our monitoring time is greater than the license time, or monitoring time is greater than the license end plus the time lag. Okay, so I'm getting a bit technical, but you don't have to worry. If you are not a technical person, just listen. I'm sure you will get at the end of the day. I am proposing today to you 18 indicators that we can use, 18 geospatial indicators we can use to monitor Galamsey sustainably and be in control of the event or of the activity. I've put them into 5 big categories. Category 1 is performance indicator. The next one is detection indicators, and then accountability indicators. The 4th one is recovery lag indicators. And then we have the compliance indicators. I'm going to rush you through a little bit because they are too mathematical, but I hope I will be able to make you understand. The first one is the performance indicators. I've already explained to you what Galamsey is in terms of the subsistence logging. When the T monitor is greater than the T lag, and then the T license end. When we count the number of subsistence water logging incidents and divide it by the total number of restoration, and multiply it by the license that we have issued, we can be able to tell if it is high, then it means that the subsistence water logging incidents are rising faster than restoration. That is basically telling us that licensed operators they are creating more subsistence water logging than they are restoring back the land. But this doesn't really give us much information, because it could be that more unlicensed or illegal mining is happening. It could be that people are abandoning their site, and it could be that it could also be an indicator of poor compliance. But if it is slow, it suggests that the restoration efforts it's keeping pace with the mining time. Now we need to combine this indicator with other indicators, and that's what I want to show with you, which is the performance indicators. But the uncertainty about this issue is that we are assuming that if you have a license, it means you're an active miner. This is a fallacy. I've seen a lot of things going around, people trying to estimate how much license was issued in a particular period. The fact that you have received a license doesn't automatically make you an active miner. It's like saying that everyone who has a driver's license has bought a car, or saying that all those who are training for drone pilots and get drone certifications have bought a drone, which it's not scientifically, it's not correct. And so we need to get the details of the issues itself. So this indicator is also saying that it's also trying to assume that there's the direct relationship between the performance and who is doing the mining. There's not. So we need to find out who is actually involved in this mining. Is it the new ones or the old licenses? And then we also know it also creates the impression that the lag time, and then it also creates the impression that the water logging and the restoration should happen within the same year. That's not true. They have a 5 years lease, so this is going to be there for 5 years before we expect any reclamation. So I'm going to give you, this indicator is supposed to find out who is actually causing the incident. I could think of 2 people: the old license holder, the new license holder, and any other person who is not in the records. And this is assuming that we are all working together with Minerals Commission and everyone who actually plays a role. Now, if we take the subsidence event of a particular, if we take the subsidence of a particular event or a particular piece of land or pixel, and we take the license holder who is responsible for that, this is basically a method of intersection. If the incident is intersecting with a concession, we already know who is responsible for that land. And then we also take the time span that whether the person's license is 5 years or it's 10 years or it has been renewed, we'll know that. Then we have to come up with a threshold. We say that if you have anyone less than 1 year is a new license holder, and anyone above 1 year is an old license holder. Just an example. What that means is that we can check If TL is less than the T new, then the person is a new license holder. And then if if you are zero is just a code. So if TL is also greater than the T old, then it means that you are an old license user. Okay, so the next indicator, I wish the person who created this thing can clean it. But if not, that's fine. The next indicator is we need to find the total number of subsident incidents by new license holders. Now, I've shown you how we can separate old and new license holders. We want to find out the total number of incidents, that is the waterlog incident we have seen, that are caused by new license holders. And this is basically a sum of their the incident based on the license type. And then we also want to be able to tell the total number of accidents that are caused by old license holders, which has similar formula. Just looking at the total number of accidents minus the new one would give you that. The next indicator is to find the percentage of subsidence incidents that are caused by new license holders. And then we also need to find the percentage of license subsidence that are caused by old license holders. Now, this is these are indicators that will help us answer the ongoing discourse even within politicians. If new licenses have been issued 3 years ago, then those licenses would increase the number of subsidence that we see, but they are not illegal. But if old licenses, which are supposed to be covered, they should be restored after 5 years, are still open, then those ones would be illegal. The next one, the detection indicator, would be the rate of subsidence. We want to see the rate at which these subsidence are coming up. And this is basically looking at if we take the new subsidence divided by the total number of subsidence that we have. And then we also want to see the rates. So this is rates by new license holders. And then we also want to see the rate at which the old license holders are creating subsidence. We come up with the abandonment indicator. The abandonment indicator is just trying to identify how many of the subsidence are as a result of people abandoning it without fulfilling the bond that they signed, the reclamation bond they signed when they were getting the license, the lease document. Now we see restoration. This is the accountability indicators. When we see that, or when we detect from our analysis or our data that a place seems to have been restored, we are not just going to jubilate and say, hey, we have done it, but we want to be able to find out who actually did the restoration. Is it the person who was responsible to do it, or is done by third party? There are NGOs and governments, even local communities, small local community groups that are worried about these issues as equally as all of us. So they try to clean some of the mess by these people. So we want an indicator to tell whether these restorations are performed by license holders or it's performed by government or third-party holders. And this formula can give you a good indication of that. And then we have the restoration, the total number of restoration by license holders. So now we want to know what is the total. We have 1,000 restorations done in the past 5 years. How many of them were done by license holders, and how many of them were done by third party? And this can give us a cause or a reason to make policies or to understand what's happening on the ground. We also want to know the percentage of restoration that is done by license holders. So in total, what is the percentage? Some of these, especially when you see the rate and percentage, these indicators are actually meant for different monitoring teams. So the percentages could actually be what the Minister of Lands would be interested in, or probably the President would be interested in. But those of us who are actually dealing with the issues would be interested in the rate and the one that are specific to, we can use to identify faces and names, basically. We also do for the percentage of restorations that are done by third parties. And then we see who is actually making the effort, who is cleaning the mess. Is it the license holders or not? And then we come the lag time. We need to identify on average, what is the lag time? How long does it take from the time of restoration, from the time of subsidence leaving the site till when the land comes back to its normal? And I've already said this is going to be depending on different factors. So it will not be the same in every region or every district in Ghana. We need to find for every area, what is the average? And for every area, what is the lag time? And then we can calculate the average of the lag time. So if we are doing a national analysis, we use the average. But if we are using for a particular district, we have to use the district's lag time rate or lag time. If we plot on the x-axis the year or the time, and we plot on the y-axis the lag time, we would help us to understand over time whether it is taking people too long to reclaim the land, or it's taking people less time to reclaim the land. And it is good for us to monitor this reclamation period, because when someone signs a bond and he decides not to do it after 5 years, it's all be shown here in our indicator. We want to also know the percentage of unrestored subsidence. Just want to know how many of them waterlogged areas were not restored. And what that would give us is that it helps us to know that old miners are leaving without fulfilling their restoration obligations. And then the overall rate of restoration is not keeping up to the subsidence that are being created. And we also want to know whether our license holders behind the Galamsey. And that's where we come up with a compliance indicator. The compliance indicator, I have 2 indicators under compliance. So compliance is compliance ratio. If we do the restoration of miners or restoration that are done by miners divided by the total number of subsidence incidents that we classify as Galamsey, we will know the ratio at which miners comply. And what that basically will tell us that if the ratio is low, it indicates that miners are abandoning their sites. And if it is high, it means that miners are keeping to their restoration obligations. The next one is to look at the compliance rate. So compliance rate is actually looking at the rate at which people comply. And basically we just, if we get the value to be low, it suggests that the license holder is not adequately restoring their land. And then they are potentially it's an act of negligence. So we want to know the extent of negligence people perform in all. So in all, I have presented to you, I think, very sharply. Maybe I've rushed, but I've presented to you 18 indicators, geospatial indicators for monitoring Galamsey in Ghana. And as theoretical this may sound, as academic as you might, I know some people are, especially those in the industry, might feel as academic as you might think of it. Let's see how this would work. But before then, I also want to show you the last thing, which is not an indicator, but which I felt like it's an advantage. We have seen people on the streets showing so much concern about the Galamsey. What I've seen is that instead of, for me, I see opportunity here, but instead of using the opportunity, we have actually tried to see these people as threats. Now, the opportunity is this. There's something we call people as sensors. Government cannot be everywhere. You cannot satellite cannot always capture the time that an activity is happening. When you create an app, which is publicly accessible for the people to have access to, such that they can report when they see something happening in their community, and it sends the location and everything, probably a picture that they need, these people become the X-ray of Galamsey on the ground at a final resolution. And so if people come together like this, I felt like it was an opportunity to say, this is our problem, not government problem. Let us all come together when you see reports and we take action of it. This is an opportunity for us to actually create an environment where all of us become monitors, but we couldn't do that. I'm afraid that at the moment, the approach we are taking is building a barrier between the people and the government. If you create an app socially, technologically, it is perfect. Socially, it will not work because people are losing trust. They feel like they are the ones who are at fault here. Now, I want you to look at how this will work, how the indicators will work. So think about it. Why did COCOBOD went to see Akwesi? This is Akwesi. I've already shown you Akwesi's story. Why did COCOBOD shoot another video after going to see Akwesi and for Akwesi to talk about the discussions that they did? I don't know what went on behind the scene, but let's peradventure if this is something COCOBOD did as a result of damage control. It is because the evidence against Cocoa Board was so, the evidence against, Cocoa Board as a result that their land, some of their lands are being used for Galamsey, was so clear that Cocoa Board felt they need to go the extra mile to prove. No one, if you send people, I think the original thing is sending people to the ground to go and monitor Galamsey. It is very normal in Ghana to see that people go for monitoring and come back and buy houses or come back and buy cars. The Galamsey people said they can bribe the farmers 50,000 each time they come and visit them. Human beings, if you put human beings in direct contact in that environment, they are going to be bribed. They will come back and tell us stories, and there is no evidence to prove. But if we identify a site, we capture the evidence, we will be able to, when we ask people to go to the field, they cannot just come and say it didn't happen, oh, there was nothing there, because we see something happening there. You need to come up with a good lie, or you need to go do your work. So what we have done is to identify the candidate site per pixel, put faces behind it. This anonymity of solving the problem is not working. Put faces behind it. Let's see whether it is the license holders or not, or it is some area boys who are going after the license holders to take over their leftovers, whatever it is. We need to have answers, and that's what the indicators are for. Let's now approach them, give them the respect. The farmers own the land. It is the landowner is the landowner. Let's give them that respect. Let's listen to their story, and let whatever agencies whose name will pop up in that story take responsibility and take whatever measures they need to take. Let's involve the people or the landowners in the solution. Let them feel that they are part of this problem and they are part of the solution. And let them provide them support that when they are being oppressed, when they are being treated in a way that they do not have the financial support, the financial will to fight, or the physical energy to fight, they will have a place to report to, and they will listen to them and take action. In the end, I want to say thank you very much for coming to this lecture. I think that we need to share the news, just like we have spread everywhere that Stop Galamsey and all the other things. I'm going to share on the chats, or maybe, I'm going to share on the Ghana Geospatial Society page, or probably on the chats, see if I can do it. But I'm going to share for us to share the indicators on our social media or our statuses. And let's add one thing that we took from this lecture. What is it that you took from this lecture? Add it to your post. And then let's create awareness of the role that geospatial technologies can play in solving the Galamsey. We can only do these proposals, but we cannot force ourselves to fix the problem if we are not involved. The solution I've proposed doesn't involve just geospatial. It involves a lot of consent from people who really want to solve the problem. Let's add the hashtag to it. Let's fix Galamsey together. Instead of saying stop Galamsey now, let us do the hashtag let's fix Galamsey together when you post the indicators. Add hashtag GGS CPD, and then you can add the hashtag sustainable solutions. And then I think that would be a good way for us to start, to let policymakers know that we are actually in there for bringing solutions. Thank you very much. And I think it will be open for questions, any of them that I can answer. If not, if we are not able to answer your questions, anyone who can answer, we'll just type it down for you, send it to you by email in a PDF format. I think that would be nicer. So James, I don't know if people can talk or they are all muted, but I'm open for questions, or if people want to ask, sure, there might be some questions in the page, but on the chat, but if someone can help me with.
Hello.
Are there questions for me?
Yes, thank you very much. I think there's a question from Michael Abuajiapia.
Okay.
He's saying, given that illegal mining activities can often be very short sometimes lasting only a few weeks to a month. How do you plan to use satellite imagery to monitor such rapid changes in land cover? What satellite platforms or technologies would you recommend that have a high enough revisit frequency to detect these activities before they move away?
Okay, so thank you very much for the question. But I think if I understand you, what you are talking about illegal mining is to catch the people who are involved in it. Because if the people are not our concern, then we don't actually need to be bothered about the time that the people go there, whether it is short or not. What we actually look for is what they leave behind. That is a footprint. What they leave something behind that help us know that they have been there. And the solution I'm proposing is not going to chase them, but the solution is identifying the land and who is responsible, because it is only the landowner who can stop it and not the government or any other person. If the landowners are empowered enough, if it's a license or concession, whoever is responsible is the only one who can stop it, because they are actually the ones who work on the ground. However, if you want to use the satellites to do this, to find the people or to see short-term Galamsey activity. Now, Sentinel-1 is the one that it's free, that is the lowest resolution that we have. However, Sentinel-1 has two sensors. So the two sensors that we have, the temporal resolution that is mentioned, it is an alternating they are alternating sensors. So for instance, if Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2A passes over Ghana today, and it's supposed to pass over Ghana again in 2 weeks, Sentinel-2B will pass over Ghana in 1 week, the same time. So they alternate. So if you do an image collection of alternating satellites, which is just Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2A and 2B alternating together, you can reduce the normal revisit time that we know from maybe, I think Sentinel is about 7 days or 9 days, one of them. But I know probably that, like, if you're a student, I know most of the things you'll be interested in is the Landsat. You can use Landsat too the same way. Use the alternating sensors so that you reduce the temporal resolution, and then you can have some weekly monitoring. I don't know if that answer is okay for you. Are we okay with the answer? Anyway, okay, I guess the person will not be able to.
Please, if you have any question, you can kindly lift up your hands. We unmute you, then you ask. Or you can put it in the chat box.
I have posted the indicators. It's a JPEG. I posted the indicators that I mentioned in the chat. I also posted it on the Ghana Geospatial WhatsApp page. So if you believe in what we have shared, if you don't have to share it if you think it doesn't make sense or it wouldn't work. But if you believe in it, then share what you take away from the class or from the lecture, and then let's share the news so that we help policymakers understand it.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Peter, and
Okay.
I would like to thank you for such a great presentation. Yes,
Thank
I
you,
would
Peter.
like to find out from you where we can possibly get maybe sites where we can get satellite images from to analyze, maybe using remote sensing softwares or whatever. If you can help us in that aspect, sites where we can download maybe satellite images or what to analyze for such issues.
I think there's a lot of sites, honestly. If you want Sentinel-based stuff, then check Copernicus site. Copernicus has a data hub. If you just type in Google Copernicus data hub, I'm sure it will pop up. You get Copernicus data hub. They have anything that has to do with Sentinel. If you also check what's the other sites, USGS, United States Geological Survey, also, they are actually the official host of the server that keeps Landsat images. So they have a portal that allows you to download if you want to download data from there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other question for me? There's 2 hands raised. James, if you can check them for me.
Follow us for real-time updates and join the elections conversation using the hashtag GhanaPost2024. Away from elections, President Akufo-Addo has described.
I will share the lecture.
Mr. Richard, you can unmute and speak, please.
I'll share the PowerPoint with you, so if you want to see something, but I'll accept the mathematical formulas.
Center of Excellence at Hollywood Teaching Hospital. He emphasized that there is more to come from.
Some hands was raised, but I don't see them anymore.
The new facility station at the premises of the Hollywood Teaching Hospital is a private public partnership.
I think Desmond or said hands is raised, so you can check up on it.
Desmond, you can. I think you can unmute yourself.
Will become the game changer in healthcare delivery. But this facility will be the cornerstone of our enhanced technique and teaching program. Our local team.
Okay. So I want to ask this question. As far as we are as a team GGS and also remote sensing, can we analyze before and after Galamsey and also give a future time frame in a form of map to educate others, if possible? And what is the best time frame to give to others or educate others?
Time frame to educate others on what?
Yes.
On the
future, as far as the Galamsey, they are done with the Galamsey before the Galamsey of an area or a farm is being destroyed. So the time frame which the farmer or any individual can go there to farm again or use any other water bodies as a form of drinking water. So what is the best time frame to give the person in a form of mapping or any verbal advice or to the person? I just want to know that.
First of all, it is possible. I think I don't know if you guys still see my screen.
Yeah, I can still see.
So I showed an indicator here, which is the lag. I think that's my. I don't know why this thing is not going. Okay, so I showed a lag, the recovery lag indicator, which basically is supposed to calculate how long naturally does the land take from the end of the distraction to when it comes back to normal, which is the natural time. This will be faster if people intentionally try to restore it themselves. And so that's why I'm saying that we don't have answers. We just have a lot of questions. And these indicators are supposed to give us a monitoring framework for us to be able to monitor and have answers. So the question you're asking, if we do that from 1980 till now, we'll be able to tell averagely how long it's taking but we'll be able to tell for each of the local areas, depending on the nature of the characteristics of the soil and other factors that are involved. So we can do that, but I cannot tell you that tell them 3 years or 4 years now, because we haven't done this. I'm proposing that we do this as a monitoring framework, but we have not yet done it. But if we do it, we can tell you the time, how long it takes. I hope it makes sense. There's another hand raised.
Okay, Mr. Richard, can you kindly unmute? Mr. Richard. Yes.
Okay, good evening. That was a wonderful presentation. Thank you. My question is, we all agree that with geospatial field, data is like very important. So we have institutions that are having good data and are sitting on the data and don't know what to do with the data. So as GGS, what do we intend to achieve after all this series of lectures we have in plan? Is it that we, after the lectures, we just go back without taking any necessary actions? What are we doing to collaborate with institutions to help spread the good news about what the spatial industry can help with?
Okay, so I'm not sure whether this question is for GGS as a GGS as a group, or it's for me based on the presentation, but I'm going to answer based on the presentation. So the lecture I've given, if you look at it, especially the indicators talking about, we want to know the concession, we want to know who actually is in charge of the concession, what is the number of years of lease does the person have, tells you that we need extra data. And I don't know who actually holds this data. I will assume it will be Minerals Commission, but I don't know for a fact. But this means that if we want to do this, then these parties need to come on board. They need to release the data. And the issue about data confidentiality will not be a question that stops us from working, but it will rather be a question that will help us take precaution on how to ensure that integrity of people's private information is being handled well. But I have a question for you. I think you also ask yourself, what can you do to share the news? I've already given one way that we can share the news. I've shared the indicator with you. I've asked you to share it on your social media. Sometimes they might not know. Maybe they don't know. So if you share on your social media, everything that became viral has actually received attention and people have acted on it. So if you share it wide, they might see that there's a potential here in this technology, and they will want to sit and then talk about how do we share data and go about it. But most of the data that I've shared with you, we will have to create them from scratch, from the satellite image as base, and then we will use the field visit and the other things that we'll do to confirm, eliminate, and then accept each and every one of them. But in GGS, as to how we collaborate with people and stuff, I'll leave that for maybe GGS itself to answer. But I think that what we do as CPD is to provide you opportunity to learn, to be inspired, to learn new things that's coming, to just be able to become better as a professional. But to solve the society's problem, we present this lecture is done so that people would be able to see what we can do and bring us on board, or bring GIS people on board if they want to. But I think the biggest question is, do we want to face Galamsey, or we know what we are doing? Because I feel like there's a lot of things that we have done that feels like we know what we are doing. At some point, it also feels like we are genuinely looking for solution. So I think whatever the answer is would be what will drive when people see your post on your social media.
Thank you very much. We have a hand from Mr. Michael. Please, Mr. Michael, you can unmute. Mr. Michael Abuajapia.
Okay, thank you. Initially, it wasn't working. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yes, that was a nice and powerful presentation.
Thank you.
I'm a geologist and I've been following illegal mining for quite some time now.
Okay.
I've also had a chance to go to the bush to meet with these people, so I have first-hand information about all these things. That is why initially I posted a question talking about the revisit time.
Yeah.
But you made mention that you are not actually looking at catching them in real time. But from the experience I also have, I know that all these activities, all this mining, illegal mining that is going on, the industry players, the government, they know them. It is just that they are failing to take on actions. So maybe if in the future we can also look at actually preventing them from even starting the whole deforestation. So currently I'm doing my master's thesis, my master's program, and I'm looking for also a thesis topic. So looking at the illegal mining activities in Ghana. Maybe after this whole presentation, I'll drop you an inbox if there are interesting stuff that we can both also work on. And I can also recommend the GMS and African program at University of Ghana that the fishery department is also undertaking. I know they have a lot of data that the Copernicus also provide. And these people are just using the data on marine. So they want people that can use this data on the integrated land degradation part. So since I read your background, since you have much information about the geoinformation, I'll be also willing to also work with you on that aspect. So this conversation might continue from here, but thank you for this powerful presentation.
Thank you. I think it's one of the things that we want to see. If it's about thesis topic, you want to do your thesis and you need maybe pick one or two ideas. That's the reason why I will share a bunch of the presentation on. I don't know how you're going to share it, but either email or on the page, so that if anyone wants to revisit some of these things and maybe take your time to consume them, you can be able to do that. But I mean, it's true. We would have to deal with the issue more sustainably. But I think that for me, when people say they feel that people are behind it, it is one thing. And it is also another thing when we show that people are behind it. And that's what I'm talking about. Let's capture the evidence. Let's put faces behind the evidence. Once we are able to capture this evidence from these indicators that I've mentioned, faces will pop up, names will pop up. And these are evidence that will stand against them until they go the extra mile to prove or to disprove it. But now, if people say, I feel like there'll be a lot of names that you can mention, but like what I said, what I showed in the first one, everybody says it wasn't me. Everyone is trying to say it's not, they are innocent. But when the names pops up, we will be able to say that there are evidences against you and you need to clear your name. So we are not looking to catch people, but we are looking to deal with the activity on the ground. At least that's what Geospatial can do. It cannot see human beings. The data cannot see human beings, at least what we have. But we'll be able to get the job done with a good monitoring framework.
Thank you very much. I think we can take one more question. Then we have a question from Mr. Justice Kwekwe. He's saying, how do we simplify GIS tools applications for people to understand and embrace these tools for collaboration to fix Galamsey?
For Galamsey specifically, my answer might be long, but this is what I think. Now we don't have anything because we are not, all the solutions that they are looking for are not, they are not looking towards the geospatial side. But this is what I think. If we are able to capture data from, go through this process that I have done, capture data from 1980 to now, and go through all the uncertainty filtering that I showed to filter out all possible uncertainty and make sure that we have enough information that is a real subset of Galamsey. We can convert this into a vector data, which becomes like the way you have your parcel land, put in a database and try to create an API for it. This API will become an API where anyone can use to just pull Galamsey data within a particular time period onto his computer, and it will have the necessary information to do all the analysis you need to do. Not everyone would be able to do all the technical parts of just the geospatial thing. But what we see even in the developed world, what Copernicus and everything are doing for us, they process the data that they get, they process it in a way that they feel it's user-friendly, and then other people will continue to use it to solve the specific problem they want to do. If this whole thing of extracting Galamsey areas and detecting them is a technical part of it, the technical people can do it, make the data available, and provide all the necessary attributes in it. So you can just have it through an API, just a link, you can pull it. And we can even provide you some of these indicators through an API. You just use the indicators, use the functions to call the indicators and get the results for particular areas or particular. So it actually needs a long-term planning. We have not gathered any information about it. But to simplify the geospatial tools in general, I think it starts with the problem you want to solve. Some problems need simplified approach. Some problem needs complex approach. Some problems we don't even know how it's going to be solved. We just want to start with the simple things that we know. So I think that the geospatial industry, we need to understand it, especially with the space of Ghana. We don't know anything about Ghana geospatial industry. Everyone says it's a geospatial person. We don't know the tools they use. We don't know what they do at their work. We don't know averagely how motivated they are, how much are they paid. Maybe they are not motivated enough, so people are not doing nice and interesting stuff. It could be anything, but we need to understand the whole space, and then we can be able to tell on data that this is what we need to do to make geospatial attractive. So if you have not filled the form,
we don't have pending questions. So
yeah, so thank you very much. And again, like I said, geospatial, the Galamsey problem is a multidisciplinary. What I have presented is how and what geospatial technology brings to the table, but we will not be the only ones to solve it. There will be some people who need to go to the field. There will be some people who need to do interactions. There are some people who need to coordinate stuff. Unless all of us come together and then bring what we have on the table, the problem would keep escaping us because it's a wicked problem and everything we see is a symptom. So if you are taking anything home today, if you're a geospatial person, I know you'll be very super proud to say GIS can capture Galamsey, but what we have provided is to tell you what we can bring to the table. And what we bring to the table would give a framework or provide a platform to find solution that is sustainable, solutions that are informed than relying on the way we feel and what we think is logical. Thank you very much for coming. And again, with our announcement, we are expecting another CPD, which is mapping plastics on Sunday. And so anyone who registered for this, or even if you didn't register and you are interested in it, we'll be happy to have you. GGA second general meeting and conference is happening. The venue is the Ghana Shippers Council in Accra, and it's between 28th and 29th. We are calling for papers by the end of 30th October. We would close the call. So if you have a paper, you just have to write an abstract and then submit, then take your time to do the detailed parts. We're also calling for all those who want to join the GGS to start the process so that they can be inducted in the next induction period. Thank you very much. There will be a link for the market survey. If you are a geospatial person, you want to contribute to let us know. the landscape of the industry, you can feel that, and we'll be happy to share the results with you publicly so you know and make good decisions about your profession. Thank you very much, and God willing, we'll meet again on Sunday. Good evening, everyone.